how do I squeeze this into 3,000 words?
Yeah. Yeah, 3,000 words could be a problem, but also it's just so easy just to keep researching because then you don't actually have to do the thing.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what I'm doing right now. I just keep researching so I don't have to do the thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of research that allows you to not do the thing, I think we're landed in the box. So I'm going to hit
We're
record.
in the box.
And I did finish Vince Ratto's new book. It is so good.
Really?
It's a very short book, but it's so well written. He's become a very good writer, right? He's become very good. And actually, the way he's approaching LSD in his book is kind of how I'm approaching MK Ultra in my series, right? The way he's looking at it from multiple positions and then sort of almost conversing between those perspectives, right? Like dialectic inquiry and whatever it is. And he does such a good job of like mapping out how dialectics work and how they apply to the conversation around acid. It is so good.
Cool. Is it a print book?
Yeah, he
Okay.
said,
Oh,
I
that's nice. Will you bring it out here?
yeah, but I'm gonna, you can probably read it while I'm there. It's very short. I
Great.
need it for, I want to interview him for my series.
Perfect.
Yeah, we can do that. But it is really good. Anyhow,
Yay.
all right, I think we're in the room. We've got friends. We got friends with crowns on. We only have crowns number one and two, and they've given them to multiple people. So I don't understand the fucking crowns. Um, Hi guys.
It's like a commie crown thing where like everyone gets to be the king and the princess.
Hey, everyone gets a trophy. Participation trophies. Yeah. Yep. What a strange couple of days it has been.
Ah.
So I've been having this like little, like, this is like the weirdest small cold I've ever had,
Mhm.
right? It's like I think I first felt it like Saturday morning, like Saturday mid-morning. I had like that sore throat. And then the next day, sort of, I woke up with the sort of congestion and I'm starting to do a better job at like not just keeping going. Like when something's wrong, like rest soon, rest in the beginning so that it doesn't turn into something terrible that I can't recover from later, right? So I tried to, like lay low a little bit. And it's just like this weird, like you don't usually get a cold this small. Like usually you get nothing or you get like more sick than this, right? But it's just been this weird kind of thing. But I feel like it's slowed me down a little bit. And so I'm noticing things that either I don't normally notice or I just override them because I have too many things to do and whatever it is. So about that day, Saturday, things started feeling awfully strange to me, right? And this, like what we covered on Monday in our regular podcast, which we'll talk some about later, like was part of the weird thing. And then uh, I watched this weird Tucker Carlson podcast the other day. That like the whole, I was, like when you listen when you're not feeling well, like you're laying down, you're listening to something, and it was almost like I kept having to rewind it because I thought what I was hearing sounded so crazy that I thought I was like maybe like falling asleep and like having a partial dream or hallucinating it, but I wasn't, and it just felt non-real to me, right? Like it felt like, what is this? This is so contrived in a even more significant way than we already think everything is contrived, right? And
Mhm.
I'll talk about the podcast in a second, but it leads into the event of the day today, which also has the kind of surreal quality to it that I'm not quite sure what to make of. I have like an entire collection of thoughts and feelings about it already, and we're talking about what's going on here with Charlie Kirk apparently being killed today. Um, but it all feels like the falseness of it all doesn't. I don't mean that it's not like really happening on some level, but it feels like it's coming from the same source, like it's like coming from the same station on the radio. All these few things that I've just said, right?
Mhm.
And I know like Christopher Gardner's been texting me a lot the last couple of weeks about how strange the render has been, right? The reality render has just been kind of on this stuck on this strange algorithm or something like that. And it definitely feels that way to me. How about you?
Um, okay, going back to your cold. That's how all my colds are because I rarely get sick and my body's fighting it so hard that
Uh-huh.
it'll be like this lingering low grade and it's it's happened sometimes where I'm like, I wish I would just get sick because
Right.
it's tiring to keep fighting it
Yes.
and it's just going on. So I understand that, but I think it's a sign of a strong immune system.
Certainly, possibly so. Like generally, when I get colds, I work through them. In the past, I've worked through them, but I usually get much more congested, and that's the part that usually becomes unbearable to me because I can't sleep when I'm that congested and whatever. And this time, that hasn't. It's just like a little bit, not enough to stop me from being able to sleep and whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's. I've definitely slowed my roll considerably this year, and I'm just like making more like thinking of long term in the decisions I make rather than just like instant gratification or whatever gets the job done fastest or whatever it is. So, yeah,
Yeah. And as far as everything feeling weird, I don't even know how to contextualize it because I just don't. I feel like I've become so jaded that I don't believe anything anymore, and I'm just constantly surprised at the audacity of the fucktards to continue to take their things further, and then the I don't want to be rude and say retardation, but like the ignorance and confusion of those who defend
right,
those who are trying to enslave and murder them. I kind of feel like I don't have a choice except to stop caring just for
right,
my own sanity.
yeah.
Because I just don't even want to. It's too crazy. It's too ridiculous.
So, okay, so I agree with you about the fake thing. There is a flavor to the fake of the last couple of days that is slightly different than the flavor that I've become accustomed to, right?
Okay.
Like, all right, let me see if I can make a good analogy here. Like, I prefer plain sparkling water. Like, I either want the plain Rambler, the plain Topo Chico. I don't like the ones with flavors very much, right? But sometimes the only one that's available is a one with flavor. And like in my mind, I'm prepared for like the fake fruit flavor. Like I kind of know what that is. And every once in a while I'll get one that surprises me in that it tastes so strange or it tastes like a little bit more real than the usual fake flavor, but still not all the way real. But it like surprises me with sort of whatever the strain is of it. And that's what this feels like. This feels like a different strain of the fake that feels like I can't say that I've never felt before or noticed before, but that like made I didn't just go like I do to most of the fake because it's all the same. I'm like, oh well, this one smells different, right? Like this is weird. Like this, it caught me by surprise. Like the strange aftertaste or the smell or whatever it is, right? Um, so this podcast that I was listening to of Tucker Carlson the other day, he interviewed this guy who had been arrested for giving saline and fake and vaccine cards, right? And so, okay, fine, listening to that, right? Like we all understand what our beliefs about reality are and how things should be. But as I'm listening to this, like parts of the story, to first of all, sounded like, well, this is going to sound really weird, but like some of the things this guy was saying that he was doing were like kind of like not on the up and up in any way, right? And Tucker Carlson is behaving in a way that I've never even seen him behave, even when he's doing his overreaction, like very dramatic. He's like talking about how irate he's becoming, but he's like doesn't really seem irate in a way that is even beyond what he normally does when he announces how he's feeling, even though it doesn't seem to match. And he's also lauding him, like giving him reward and props for like the parts of the story that make me go, I don't really know if you should have done that. In terms like that, like if you're trying to be, if you think that not giving people the vaccine is on the up and up, then also like apparently what he did is he applied to become a person in Utah who gives vaccines. So he asked them, he took $28,000 worth of product from them, right? And then destroyed it and made cards, like right? And like there was never any question about like, well, what did you like? Did you feel like maybe you were not right? What about taking the product? It was just none of the pushing back on the parts. Like if you have a strong feeling about it, just be like, not doing it, not doing it. I'm still going to counsel my people not to do it. And you know what I mean? It's different if like someone comes to your office and demands to see your vaccine card, and you're like, you made one up. Then when you're like, I'm going to go pretend I'm a vaccine provider and I'm going to destroy them and say that I gave it to them, that felt weird to me. For you have to do whatever you have to do. Like I'm not here to judge what people do, but to be lauding him as heroic for that felt odd to me.
I I can see it. Like, it's not something I would do. But if you think about, look, we're dealing with people who are so confused, who are under such extreme Stockholm syndrome that they're still injecting themselves. Look at Bernie's like psycho shit today. Vaccines work. So it actually might be, granted, it's illegal and it's unethical, but he might be doing more measurable good in the world than
Well,
you and
he
I are.
was
Wait, wait,
he
wait,
was
wait, wait. Let me finish. Let me finish. Because he just saved what? So how many doses was $28,000 worth?
it was so he wasn't giving saline shots or fake shots to people who wanted shots. Like so what he
Oh,
wasn't saving people who would otherwise have gotten the shot. He was trying to he knew that he had all these people that didn't want shots but wanted vaccine cards. And so he got shots and pretended he gave them to them and still gave them the vaccine cards that came with those shots.
so
And if it was a child, he gave them a saline shot so that the child wouldn't know that they hadn't been vaccinated.
like I said, I've said this from the get-go. This is my first global apocalypse. We're all
Right.
figuring it out as we go along. So, understanding how dangerous those things are
Sure.
and were, again, it's not ethical, it's not legal, but he was clearly trying to help.
Sure. So if it had just been, if the question, and I'm like I said, I have no judgment really about what he did, but there was no. Were you concerned about like the moral implications of like you did take product that you said you were using one way and you did something else from it. He didn't even ask him about that stuff, and like just the lauding him about it, right? Like not just saying like it was weird, and the way he was behaving, it felt like this feels contrived for a reason that is not the reason that most people who listen to it are going to think it's for. It felt so strangely fake to me.
I can see that, but as you and I have discussed, we've seen this more and more recently that these interviews are so performative with
Right.
no pushback, with everything scripted. So this is clearly the way that it's going.
Right.
Yeah, if he were like an honest, ethical interviewer, Tucker would have asked those questions, if for no other reason than it would make for a more interesting conversation and be covering all sides of it. But I no longer expect that of
Right.
these talking heads.
This was at a different level. Everything you say, I agree with, and this is at a different level. And to be clear, I have no judgment about what he did. I think every person had to decide for themselves in this situation. Like I knew people who, got counterfeit vaccine cards. I knew people who like pretended to take it and did whatever everyone
For
decided.
the record, I am not okay with fake vaccine cards. I'm furious at everyone who got them because that allowed this
Sure.
nonsense to continue. Those people are complicit and enabled this.
But that's the same. This guy was giving people vaccine cards,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So,
lame.
okay, so I again for myself, like I handled it the way I felt like I needed it. Like I agree with you that when someone does that, when someone plays along with pretending they got it or did the fake vaccine card, then that reifies the mandate and all of that kind of stuff.
Correct.
But just the way, like if you
And
go and listen,
it lends the illusion of consent, which was
correct,
the opposite of what
correct,
we needed.
correct, 100%, right?
Ugh.
But if you listen, and again, I don't know if this was because I was like a little bit sick and so just a little bit different, sort of in my consciousness than I know it was. The whole thing sounded, I felt like I was like listening to a stage play be recorded. That was like trying. It was so strange.
So,
And what?
oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, but first of all, I wonder how much of this has to do with the eclipse.
Hmm.
And it feels like, and they keep doing this, they just ratchet it up, where they're like, we'll make the acting 50% worse. We'll make the sets 50% shittier
Right.
just so we
Yes.
can like
Yes.
open the Overton window of
That's what
how
it felt like.
badly we have to perform this nonsense.
That's what this felt like. It felt like
Yes.
we're at a new stage
Yes.
because it does feel like, this to have the guest on now feels like less relevant than if he'd had it on a significant time before. Now he was involved in court stuff, so I don't know if that's why. Maybe I think Tucker Carlson was pretending he just heard about this recently. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the way that that felt bleeds over into how this thing going on feels today.
With
And when I
Charlie
say
Kirk.
that, I don't mean I'm not trying, right? I don't have this this feels to me like there is an agenda behind this that it feels like, okay, so producer Jeff sent me this the other day. Let me just find it. He sent me this tweet, he linked to this tweet, right? That Trump announces a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. You hear about anti-Semitic, but you don't hear about anti-Christian, right? So this was just he sent me this like 2 days ago, right? And remember, Jeff's been for years now talking about the incoming Christian Reich, right? Or
Sure.
whatever it is. Okay. And so the thing that Charlie Kirk is really known for is his blend of Christianity and conservatism and sort of trying to spread the gospel of that on campuses and whatever it is in support of Trump. And so he's just announced this task force 2 days ago. And then, like, the leading emblem of this out there in sort of the youth culture sphere has this happened today. That feels like it feels to me like it's the same team that did the Butler, Pennsylvania or something like that, but they're ratcheting it up,
Yeah.
right? I don't get the sense that he's not really dead, but I do get the sense that like this isn't there's there's a lot going on here, and this is like long-term um uh sort of Christian Reich agenda
Oh,
stuff.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It's all long term.
Yeah.
Like, the deeper I delve into like under the hood of Santa Fe, I'm like, shit, this has been planned for a really long time. They're clearly very organized. So the Christianity thing folds into a clip I'm going to share today from Gigi Young. But remember last week I mentioned seeing Patrick Bet David take over that kind of debate thing? Was that a Charlie Kirk thing?
That's what Charlie Kirk used to do,
So already I was like, why is Patrick Bet David stepping in?
pretending he's Charlie Kirk.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just very odd. Like the switcheroo of players.
Right. Right. And so, yeah, the whole thing feels weird. Of course, like they tried to pretend they caught someone, but nobody was believing that that was the person. So I guess they let that person go, and now they're saying they haven't caught someone. It was weird. Like, apparently he got to the hospital with a pulse, and they stabilized him and was stable for a little period of time, and then he passed away, or then he died. I find it odd how easily it's being allowed to be shared on YouTube and Twitter and everything. They're not right. They're like, you can watch him bleed out. Apparently, I'm not watching it, but
Okay, so I didn't see it and I would never
I,
watch
me
anything like
either.
that at
Yeah,
all.
me
But
either.
I also saw today,
The girl on the train.
yeah, and
Right.
I'm not
Yes.
watching those either. But it's like, why is this like highly, highly disturbing,
Correct.
violent, bloody footage being shared publicly now? What is like, that's part of the
They
ratcheting
never
up, I
allowed
guess.
that before. Usually they will censor any stories that show any of that stuff. And even if you talk about it too graphically and whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, this is intentional. Right. But the shot came from 200 yards away, which is about the same amount of yards away that the other one came from. Right. So it's like, yeah. But
And it
anyway,
happened in what, Utah?
in
But
Utah.
but Gavin Newsom was like among the first to condemn this. Like, what the fuck does Newsom have to do with
Well,
this?
then also like the way it was being reported in the first few minutes, like some of the people were saying, we're not even sure that it wasn't perhaps like a conservative with a gun who just accidentally fired it off in celebration.
What?
Right, like it was a rally. Like it was a rally, and so because they believe in the Second Amendment, they come with their guns, and maybe they got a little too excited and accidentally shot him. Right, like, it's like this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Um, so in the chat, Jana said that on South Park
Yeah.
there was a newly released episode about Charlie Kirk and Jesus coming back to school.
Oh, interesting. And this was out of school because that's all he does. He only goes to schools. That's his thing. He goes to college campuses and stuff like that. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Um. But the fakeness, like when I say the fakeness, I don't like the synthetic feeling of it feels to me like it goes along with that Tucker Carlson podcast that I listened to the other day, and then I do have another sort of Tucker Carlson based clip to play at some point in here that I'm like, what is this? And it all feels connected.
So Mitch, the orgone donor, says, I might be alone on this, but one of the videos I thought looked like Charlie's shirt poofed outward, almost like a bubble pack inflated and exploded under his shirt, and then there was blood.
Oh, interesting.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, but that's juicy.
I mean, I suppose it's certainly possible that he's decided he's had enough of being in the public eye, and all right, let's get a 2-for-1, and let's ramp up the anti-Christian rhetoric, and let me go to Cuba or on the other side of the ice wall or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Or in the underground bases with Elvis and the Nazis.
Right? I don't right? Like I have so many like mixed feelings about all of those kinds of narratives, right? Because obviously like I've researched them. I know that goes on, and I also think just like they lull us into thinking everything is normal, they also lull us into immediately like coming to those conclusions
Right.
and miss I think we might be, like I think they go through phases. Like we had a serial killer phase, and then a school, like a school shooting phase, and I think we have had fake events phase, and I think now it's like no, let's like let's make it real and show everyone on live television, right?
Can you, I mean, what is that doing to people's minds and
Correct.
consciousnesses that
Yes.
is just so
Yes.
abusive?
Yeah.
It's psychotic. It's sociopathic.
Well, I mean, I think this is part of what a captor does to create Stockholm syndrome in their victim, and this is on like a massive scale, right? Like alternately, like terrify them and then like kill them with kindness, and then do something like pretend you're going to kill them and then don't, but then like pretend you're being sweet and then hurt them, and, right? Like all of this weird kind of psychological stuff. So, um, anywho, yeah, so that's the sort of the way everything has felt, just kind of funky the last few days to me, and this just seems to have capped it off. But yeah, where should we start in terms of clips?
I'd love to start with the Christian stuff just since it feels topical,
Let's do it.
if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off with a clip from an article from Tablet Magazine. This is a threefer, so thank you for your patience, everyone. So this is about, it's an article called Bending the Jews, and it's about how this like justice philanthropy money is propping up this Jewish group. Actually, let me pull up the name of the article. It's called Bending the Jews. Deep-pocketed funders, including the Rockefellers and the Buffetts, are creating a constellation of activist groups like Stosh Kotler's Bend the Arc that aim to rewire American Jewish life.
Okay.
So these are the groups who are controlling every fucking thing. And this is from 2020. It's not new. But I felt like this part was important. So Kotler, she's the head of this Bend the Arc group. Her Kotler's Jewish rebirth was driven, she observed afterwards, in what she identified as the inherent malleability of Judaism, or at least of American Judaism. Authored by some of those in attendance, the Seder's Haggadah, so they're talking about these like hipster Seders she was hosting, suggested that the traditional words and concepts used to describe G blank D were alienating, oppressive, or meaningless. and offered alternatives such as Shekinah, indwelling presence, and Ein Sof, infinite one. In keeping with liberal interpretations of traditional text, the group read 10 plagues of the occupation on Jewish people, blah, 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 blah. The key here is the removing
Yeah.
of God, okay? So now I'm going to move us to this Gigi Young clip. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I need to see you just as an anchor point.
I've been meaning to listen to this one, but I haven't had a chance yet. Yeah.
This was really good. I highly recommend it. But I thought this part was especially relevant. So here we go. Fair use.
People or certain things are metaphors, that they're allegorical. So in Revelation or at different points when this is referred to, they're allegorical.
Here we go.
Could be somewhere where he's going with that. And why it could actually come to pass, why that actually could happen, is that there is often a...
Sorry, I need to go to 113. I'm sorry, guys.
No worries.
Here we go.
Whose Christianity is entirely centered around the mystery of resurrection, which is the establishment of the immortal body. That's really where that secret and mystery lies. So Peter Thiel, and really anyone that wants to install some massive surveillance system or be the top oligarch, they need to convince Christians that they're not that bad. Because there's many different Christian sects and churches that associate transhumanism with the Antichrist. And we'll get into exactly on the esoteric level why.
We know how nervous this book makes them.
Yes, he scares the CIA.
Is that from me? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Or he scares CIA. Yes, yes. CIA doesn't want to collaborate with him on the book, even though he's collaborating with them in life. Yes, here we go. I think that's our show from last week.
So we're trying to be extra
here we go.
collaborative to give them peace of mind. Like,
okay, there's a ghost in my house. Sorry about that.
The ghost of Andrew Bustamante.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Bring it back up. Come on, Gigi.
So there is going to probably be an effort by different transhumanists, people that think we need more radical change physically, that radical physical change is spiritual change. I mean, that's just pure materialism, but I think that they will need to try to sell that as being, you know, we didn't read our Bibles correctly. We didn't read spiritual texts correctly. So now we're going to be educated on how it really means transhumanism. Yeah, the Bible's really referring to transhumanism. We just didn't understand it properly. Or the ancient traditions of the East were really referring to transhumanism with the immortals. So that's really what it is. So that could be somewhere where he's going with that. And why it could actually come to pass, why that actually could happen, is that there is often a tendency with materialists to go back into spiritual texts and say that, you know, beings and people or certain things are metaphors, that they're allegorical. So in Revelation or at different points when this is referred to, you know, that's not really talking about an entity or a being or the incarnation of evil in the world. That's just an allegory. It's just a metaphor. The Antichrist is just a metaphor. And that's how they sort of wrest very important topics into this kind of relativity. And this is something that Jordan Peterson does as well. You know, everything in Jordan Peterson's cosmology is a symbol, it's a metaphor. He won't say he believes in God, but he'll give this massive lecture on the Bible, and everything is just a story, a lesson. And this is also like in the New Age, how everything's a hologram, everything's a simulation. We don't see the cosmos as actually being full of beings or actual entities. So we're not able to see the actual individuated entities that make up the world around us, often because an individual has not actually individuated themselves. So people who have not really completed their individuation process, which comes through uniting with Christ, and that's the only process in which you can become individuated, truly, then they don't see the world and the cosmos as individuated entities. They see it as just waves and particles, or just forces that they can learn to control and manipulate with their mind and their God. So when an individual isn't individuated enough, then they don't see that beings are beings. So they don't see that the Antichrist is a being. They don't see maybe even that Jesus was a real person and that the Christ is an actual being. The Christ has to remain some kind of fluffy wave consciousness. It's never an entity. It's never a being. Again, that's because that person hasn't reached a point where they're individuated and they're seeing themselves as a being, a true being. They're still seeing themselves as part of this almost hive mind system with no individuation.
Okay, that's the basic gist. I want to say I don't agree with her that the only way to individuate is through Christ. It's so reductive. So it's like the Hindus are wrong, everyone else is wrong, right? And the other thing I don't understand about Christ is like, okay, Jesus came back and the world has been divisive and shitty since. So what was the function of this like great prophetic being? But I do think it's important, this getting away from the beings, from the God, making everything like a metaphysical metaphor, particles and waves.
Right. Yeah, no, I also, yes, I don't agree with her about all that stuff. And I find it actually, like, when she does that, it's kind of one of my feelings about Charlie Kirk, right? Is that, whatever happened, if somebody shot him, that is not okay for any reason. But, I sometimes have gotten out over my skis, talking about things and people that have and it has consequences. And I've had some of those consequences and I've had to accept them, because that's the price you pay for choosing to step into certain topics, right? And so I'm not saying that makes it okay for someone to do what they did, but this is a young person who is basically going around telling everyone that they're wrong and he's right, right? And in this very offensive way, that the center of all of our politics should be about, America being better than everybody else, about the family being the center of everything. And I'm one of these people, like, I'm a single person, not a single person. I don't have any children, right? Like, I'm a single person I'm in a relationship. I'm not married.
Laura, I think she just broke up with you.
No. I love Laura. That's not true. Right. We're not married. So we don't have, like, that doesn't blend into like our politics or whatever it is. Right. So we're not married. We don't have children. And like, I completely don't like the people who are anti-family, but I also don't like being preached at about how the focus of our entire world and reality should be around marriage and family and children and this, that, and stuff, because that has nothing to do with my life, right? And so when people do this, whether they be people like Charlie Kirk, who I have almost nothing in common with, or someone like Gigi Young, who maybe I have more interest in common with, she comes from a more esoteric perspective, but I don't necessarily see it exactly the same way she does. I see how it could be that way, but it could also be this way. And I think there's a lot of individual and cultural influence on whether people see things as entities or whether they see them more as like vibes or energies or fields that doesn't necessarily make them an unindividuated person.
Agreed. But I do think it's this massive psyop to move us away from like beings and like the truth of this realm. I believe that. I believe there are other unseen entities.
I think they exist at different frequency bands.
Right. I think it also folds in, and this is the last one of this little series, to this. I saw this on of course, a fucking hybrid. God protect me from your followers. What the hell is that?
I mean,
Whole,
I mean, maybe it's a person who doesn't like the Charlie Kirk types of the world.
right, but it's like, but this is the other thing propping up the Marxism, the globalist agenda, is there is no God. If there's a God and a higher cosmology, then this transhumanism bullshit wouldn't work. This is what they're constantly preaching, is that there's no pineal gland, there's no soul, there's nothing that's unseen. If you can't measure it, it
Right.
doesn't exist. So it's part of the same grift.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I think like everything is sort of like an individual process and experience, like type of thing, right? And so there's no, I don't think it's like there's God and it's this way, or there's no God and it's that way. Like both things are at the like dumb ends of the poles, right? Like the dumb ends of the spectrum. Everything is sort of, based on perception and what you're sort of loaded with from your own, for everything from your genetics to your personal story, your family story, your cultural story, and then how what's inside of you interacts with what's out there, and how you sort of see that or determine that or perceive that or whatever is unique to every individual. But yes, I agree with you that this is we have someone who's obviously a reductive materialist, right? Trying to come in and co-opt the language of spirituality in order to convince the somehow coincidentally really exact group and number of people he would need to convince that this is a good idea to really get it across the I think he stands a better chance of convincing those people if he can brainwash
When you
them.
say who are we talking about? Peter
Thiel. Yeah. Right? Like he wants to co-opt the sort of religious people who support Trump into this idea that transhumanism is really something that like the Bible would be for, because it's about men becoming more than they are and whatever it is. My experience is that a lot of those people are more likely to fall for that than the kind of people who are like my dad. Right? Like my dad is not a tech bro kind of person on the list. There's lefty tech people, like the Tescaril, like that guy we were listening to about the Tescaril thing that time. But there's like all these people that are sort of, center left, slightly progressive, probably atheist, but not really that interested in technology other than helping them do their work, who like would think Peter Thiel is batshit. But because Peter Thiel was really good at like cultivating this public perception of himself as a Trump supporter and all of this kind of stuff, that those people who can't get over the form of Trump derangement syndrome that they possess are going to be the ones that are sort of susceptible to this.
Yeah. For me, I'm just seeing it as like a much longer play, going back to like the insertion of scientific materialism in like the late 1500s, early 1600s, and the futurist movement, and Brett and Eric Weinstein being atheists, and how like it would be very difficult to pull this off if people did believe in a higher power, if people did believe in more,
if people believed in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If people just believed in themselves, it would be impossible for them to pull this off.
Totally.
Speaking of Peter Thiel, are you done with that little segment?
I'm done.
Producer Jana and I were digging around today she brought up this point that she has never seen, other than in that one famous picture of them from when they were like in college with PayPal. She's never seen Elon Musk and Peter Thiel in the room together. Mm-hmm. So we went on a dive looking to see if we could find any pictures of them together. So there's this very famous picture, which when you look at, I'm not trying to say that they're the same person or anything. That's not the point of this, right? There's this really this picture from when they were younger. But if you look at it, there's like this weird split down the middle. It almost looks like it could be grafted together in some ways. But this is a picture of them in their first office, PayPal.
Look at Peter Thiel's fist on top of the computer. That
It's
looks
so
weird.
small, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mini fist.
Correct. And look how I've never noticed this with him before, but like, look, he's got the prominent canine, the
Fangs.
Dracula teeth. Yeah. Which, they say he gets like the blood transfusions from children or whatever it is. So, okay. So this is the famous picture of them together. But Jana and I dug and hunt and dug and hunt, and we were able to find only one picture of them together, which is weird considering the stories about their history, right? This is the only picture available on the internet of them together. And it came from someone's Facebook page, right? That's the only picture of them seemingly it looks like, it doesn't look like a fake picture to me. This looks like a real picture. But isn't that strange for their history together and for how many things they have in common and the level of work they've done together and that just the amount of, it's bizarre to me.
Here's
Right?
where it's not bizarre, and this is just a maybe. You know how all the like big social media CEOs, execs, they won't let their kids have social media. They're not using the cell phones because they
Yes.
know how horrible they are.
Yes.
I wonder if these guys know how horrible that tech is, so they're not carrying around, they're not hanging out with phones the way everyone is. Like,
But I just mean like, weren't they ever like speaking on a panel together and someone had a video of it or a picture of it or anything like that? Like this is kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird. I don't know. What was uh there was that little section in we have a show coming out tomorrow titled Matt's Funeral,
yes.
that we'll be adding to here a little bit. It'll be out tomorrow. Wordspodcast.locals.com. Welcome to Words, all one word in capital. And we're sort of doing a watch and comment along for Russell Dobular eulogizing Matt Taibbi's career. So Dani gave Glenn a funeral the other day, and it was like we were having the conversation of Glenn versus Matt, and almost on cue, the simulation produced Matt suiciding himself, basically. I don't, not in real life, but basically suiciding his journalism career in a just fantastic way.
I don't know if it's his journalism career. I think it's just his credibility as an honest actor.
Well, yeah, well, his career, he had a career as an honest journalist, and that career is over.
It might not be over. He's just not an honest opiner on culture.
He told a lie that Russell Dobular found, and it's in some of those. I don't have a clip of it, but I guess I could go try and find it. They found an article that Matt Taibbi wrote on Israel Palestine in 2002 and 3, where he had all kinds of knowledge that he claims to no longer have.
Yeah, I've heard all of that. I know that. Right. I'm just saying, like, this is so fringe that like a couple alt media people are annoyed with Matt for defending the $250 million paycheck that
Right.
Mary Weiss just got for her blog. I don't think that's closed the door on the stuff that he's already doing.
Correct on some level, but the way he just pretends he doesn't get it and then continues to pretend he doesn't get it is pretty like impugning.
I guarantee this is not going to even put a dent in his career or change anything for him except maybe get him on CBS a lot.
Well, that's true, right? But yes, as a journalist that you or I might want to, like, the issue for me isn't even about whatever his opinion is on Israel or Palestine. It was that he was intentionally missing the point of the story he was covering so as not to have to cover the part he doesn't want to cover.
Oh, 100%. And did you bring any clips from his Walter Kern Racket News thing?
I did not bring any clips from that.
I did. I don't know if you want to go into it just because we're talking.
Well, let's go into it. So we recorded the other day. We have about a 2-hour podcast going through this segment from Due Dissidence and adding bits and pieces that in the way that only we can do that will be out tomorrow. But as soon as we were done, while we were recording, we saw that Matt and Walter were on the air. And then as soon as we got off the recording, Dani got an email that Matt had posted a Substack. And so Matt has this Substack article where he says he's finally decided to explain what his position is. And then he goes on to not explain the position, just to double down on all the dumb things he already said that originally got him in trouble. And then also make a podcast about it with Walter where like, I just feel like this is digging it deeper. Like there was no addressing of any of the questions people actually have here, just a doubling down on like the dumbest part of whatever he thinks his points were.
Yeah, it was really stupid. And then
and it became very clear. You're right. Walter Kern is his handler. It was very clear from this podcast that, and remember, you guys will hear us talking about this during the episode that'll come out tomorrow, where we're trying to we're having a conversation about like how Walter Kern compromised, how they got this to happen. And this podcast that happened right after we finished recording, to me, was the evidence that what we sort of opined about is probably correct.
Agreed. And I just have two very short clips.
Let's do it.
But basically, they took 45 minutes to like dogpile on the detractors. And what I don't really respect about Walter is that he only ever takes Matt's perspective. I don't see them having their own independent perspectives or opinions. It's just kind of a lockstep. And so it was 45 minutes of evading the actual point and making it seem like people were annoyed with Matt for not taking a side on Israel-Palestine, which was not the issue
Correct.
At all. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there because my clips don't explain that part.
And guys, that the digging that the Due Dissidence boys did, and then the points that we added on to, and it's there was a good informational dig on where all of this comes from. So look forward to that tomorrow.
Cool. Okay, so this is just, again, super short. Here we go, fair use.
The system in America, that they chose someone who the knock against whom is that she serves, the system. It is not, to me, shocking, astonishing, right. or especially interesting, really, honestly, that she has
Kel Surprise, right?
Yeah. Wow. Who did they think it was going to be? Taylor Lorenz.
Right.
Why is Taylor Lorenz name being brought up all the fucking time?
Well, also I love that they think Taylor Lorenz is not a system journalist as well.
Well, and also all this 45 minutes of posturing like this is the problem.
There was no information in that 45 minutes. It was just trying to pretend like you're explaining the problem, but you're not explaining the problem. You're still dancing around the same thing.
And the fact that they took so much time to do it, like the overkill, but I would be remiss if I didn't say Walter has great hair.
He does have great hair, but the more I was snowed by him in the beginning, and the more I watch him, the more I'm like, this is a shady motherfucker.
So shady.
So shady.
Yeah, super, super shady. Okay, I'm just trying to get to the next section. Okay, here we go. Still fair use.
They would. How did I not see this coming a long time ago? And the success of the free press, I'll tell you, I was sitting next to Barry Weiss when she named it. Should it be free press or the free press?
Really? CIA? Yeah, that's CIA?
That's a detail. It just happened. I was in her company.
Because there was already
And Matt's like, really? Okay, so jumping off of this, I want to play another clip. Here we go, fair use. This is Sam explaining why I'm wrong to accuse Joe Rogan of being controlled opposition because he knows him.
A little game with the masters of mankind, I feel. He has, or maybe like the Mike Baker thing. Maybe he actually likes talking to the guy. I don't know. I've never brought that up with him. But that's the organicness of it. I can just tell you, I was in the Comedy Store parking lot when he was talking to Red Band, and he goes, he just done Corolla. I think he just did Opie and Anthony. And he was just like, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. You should totally do it. And it just became something.
It's amazing that this counts as debunking to whatever they are, telling us that they were there when these things started. And so we should just trust them. And we should trust their opinions on the matter. It seems to be like, I don't know, a strategy that went through their handlers that was deployed upon them, something.
Well, that's how that whole Matt and Walter felt about like how it was almost like they were explaining how her rise to this position was actually natural.
It might have been, let's say it was natural, even though you and I go through this on the show
Right.
that everyone's going to tune into tomorrow. What they don't acknowledge is that her blog is probably not worth $250 million.
Right. Yes. Right.
Which is the only point.
Which is the point. Correct. Yes. Right.
That's it.
There's a few points, and none of them are the ones that they've chosen to focus on.
Zero.
Okay. Where should we go next? I have let's see. So I have a clip of the Young Turks talking about how Tucker Carlson's 9/11 documentary is making everybody nervous.
Let's do the Young Turks, only because, as I told you before we started recording, I'm reading about the Laurel Canyon situation, and do you know that there was a group there called the Young Turks?
I think I've heard that before, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what's happening? Something's funny with my computer. What is it doing? Hold on a second. This one. Okay. All right, here we go. Fair use. We'll play this for a while. It's kind of a long clip. We don't have to play it all, but you'll get the point. Apparently, Tucker Carlson has a 9/11 documentary coming out tomorrow.
The official story on 9/11 is a complete lie. The 9/11 report is a joke.
You have the CIA following two men all over the planet and then eventually even to America, right? And you don't tell the FBI. 9/11 Commission, the cover-up.
So what did happen? What did the government know? What did foreign governments know? There was a cover-up. Why? It's been nearly 25 years. It is time Americans learned what actually happened. We're going to tell you. We're releasing one episode per week. You're not going to want to wait. If you're a member, you don't have to. You get all 5 episodes the day it drops, right then, ad-free. Our first episode airs Thursday, 9/11, September 11th. You will not want to miss it. Join us now at tuckercarlson.com.
All right. Well, that trailer and this docuseries that's coming.
Why am I looking at a Hollywood street corner harlot delivering the news? What is this? Have some self-respect and put some clothes on.
It's very fascinating how her look has evolved over the years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love what you get. I love how prude you are, Dani. How you get so offended by it's very funny. Yeah. Okay.
Up on the Tucker Carlson network is getting a lot of attention, so much so that Piers Morgan interviewed him today just to ask some questions and to challenge what many believe are simply crazy conspiracy theories among conspiracy theorists in regard to what took place on 9/11. I don't know what I personally believe. Obviously, this hasn't been published yet, but I thought that this conversation, this exchange between Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson was fascinating. And we're gonna just give you a few highlights. Please watch the entire conversation for yourselves. But before I get into it, Cenk, any initial thoughts?
Well, before I never entertained the idea that 9/11 was anything but what the government said. And so I was like, what did they make the planes disappear? They get willing to kill everybody on the planes. It all sounds absurd. So I now think that I have seen the government do so many terrible things repeatedly and cover up for it repeatedly that I am no longer sure. And when you see things like World Trade Center 7.
So now that Tucker Carlson has made a documentary about 9/11, Cenk Uygur is no longer sure that he believes the government's story.
A building across the street apparently was so hot that the steel inside the building melted from across the street. But the government found Mohammed Atta's paper passport conveniently on top of the road.
Isn't it amazing how he sounds like Alex Jones in 2005?
Or Charlie Sheen.
Right.
2003.
Right. Yes.
Trouble.
Yeah, there's
things that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I know the answer, but I'm beginning to come to some conclusions about what is not the answer.
He's beginning on September 9th, because I think this was from yesterday. September 9th, 2025, he's beginning to come to some sort of understanding that maybe 9/11 wasn't what it looked like.
Wow, he's so
Yeah,
quick.
and that's where I'm at as well, right? I'm not running around saying 9/11 was an inside job. I don't know, but I do know that there are some serious issues with what the, accepted narrative is. And in fact, they're about to get into an exchange.
Did you see her on Tucker Carlson a few weeks back? She had an interview on Tucker Carlson.
No, was she wearing pasties and a G-string?
I think she was a little bit more covered up because I think he's in Maine, so but it was really I listened to that whole interview, and it was one of those things that, like, the previous theater would have had you believe that these are two people who would never have spoken. But it's fascinating that they had an incredibly cordial conversation to where they came to the place where they realized they agree on almost everything. And then now suddenly she's also willing to start questioning her previously held beliefs about 9/11.
Okay.
In regard to Building 7. So let's go to the first clip.
Huge parts of the 9/11 story were left out of the commission report. For example, what happened to Building 7, which was not only not next to the Twin Towers, which are hit by airplanes, but had a building in between itself and those buildings, collapsed that afternoon for reasons that no one has been able to explain since. You're not a lunatic.
I'm not saying this is true, but it doesn't seem like it's impossible that he would have been one of the main people making fun of Rosie O'Donnell when she had that question back like 15 years ago. Remember when she went through her little 9/11 truther phase, and she even had Joe Rogan on her show and they were talking about Building 7, right? I'm not saying this is true, but he seems like one of the people who would have made fun of her. And then now he's sitting here on Piers Morgan all these years later, literally saying word for word the same things that they said that I'm sure he used to make fun of.
For asking, there's no plausible explanation for how that building collapsed.
So that's the issue at play here. That I wanted to give you that portion of what Tucker Carlson had to say.
You heard that that's the issue at play, that there's no explanation for Building 7?
Wow, this is breaking news.
And Piers Morgan attempts to explain it to some extent by providing what he feels is a similar example of another building, like just melting away similarly to Building 7.
Before we go to that clip, Anna, I just want to say this
is appropriate.
Well, what's weird is like she's made herself start to look like the chicks on Fox News used to look like.
They look this slutty?
Oh yeah, right? Ugh. But like she's opposed to all of that, right? She's a progressive and da-da-da-da. And it's just funny how like all of these women eventually begin to look like each other.
Pathetic.
Right? I love how appalled you are.
So gross.
Story broke today. I didn't know that was going to be the first topic. And for all the times that I had this conversation with Ben and a million other people, I would always say, look, guys, I get everything, and I'm not a physicist. I don't know how the plane could hit or couldn't hit or could crash or couldn't crash. I got no expertise on that. Just that building that is not anywhere near the other buildings just melting down. I've never thought that made any sense. And what we should expect from our government is logical answers,
right?
Not like, whatever, shut up, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you should never get any real answers. So the reason I interrupted you is because I'm super curious what Piers Morgan is going to say, because I've literally never heard a proper explanation for it, even when I believe 9/11 100%.
Well, let's go
the
to
official
Piers
story.
Morgan. Let's see what he had to say.
If you look into the investigation,
that's what I was just going to say, right? Like that should have been clue number one that you shouldn't believe it.
The findings of the investigation into it were that the North Tower, when it came down, had set off a load of fires in Building 7. And it was a steel structure and shouldn't have gone down, but it did. That these fires burned all afternoon, and I think it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something. The tower eventually gave way to the welter of fires raging inside it. And it was the only time that had happened.
That there isn't video of the owner of the building saying, I told them to pull it?
Right.
What the fuck? Okay.
A structure that was built in that way. However, there has been another tower very similar to that in structure, which has since gone down in Tehran. So it's no longer the only one. In other words, there is another example of a tower like that collapsing.
Okay, so you can see Tucker Carlson smiling in response to what Piers Morgan is saying, probably because, okay, well, if you want to make that argument that the fire was so hot that it led to the collapse of building.
there's some more interesting things in here, but we don't have to keep listening because essentially this is old news to all of us. But it's fucking fascinating to be listening to them in 2025, like starting to make the points that 20 years ago when someone else made those points to them, they went, haha, conspiracy theorists, just like he said, right? The whole thing, this is part of the surreal algorithm that we're living in this week.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I love how, like, now that Tucker Carlson has decided that there's something wrong with 9/11, that means there is. Because at the end of like, if you guys go and watch that whole clip, like, by the end of it, like, they're basically going, I didn't know, but now I'm really starting to think that there's something wrong with 9/11. Like, it took Tucker Carlson telling them that something was wrong.
No, it didn't. It took their CIA handlers saying, "Go along with it. This is the new
like I said, Tucker Carlson." Right? Tucker Carlson, who also has had Walter Kern. So Tucker Carlson is assigned to certain groups of people and Walter Kern to someone else, right? I think, like, Walter Kern, like, Matt's his only subject because, right? But Tucker Carlson seems to have a whole class of people that he manages, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Where should we go next?
What else do you have?
I have the Whitney Webb clip.
Do the Whitney, because I have a clip from that as well.
All right.
In case it's not one of the clips that you brought.
Okay. And so I forget the numbers on it, but this clip will tie nicely into the two episodes we did in regard to David Martin's book, the Coup de 12, or what's the secondary name of it again? The Enterprise, or something, something like that, right? This ties into that. I've not heard her say any of these things before that she's going to say right here. Various.
Okay. Final question. What is for you? There might be multiple answers to this, but the biggest unanswered question that you have.
Oh, about the Epstein case?
Yeah, but you can go wider if you want. But
oh man, well, not really sure how to answer that because things I don't know the answer to. I've like formed theories about like why they decided to go after Epstein in 2019.
But is there anything that you're always like, fuck, I wish I knew this?
Well, we tried to get documents on Mark Middleton from the Clinton Presidential Library, and they just will not respond. They have folders of Middleton stuff. I'm just like, please give it to me. Because I think that's a huge scandal.
Yeah.
I think what Gary Webb stumbled upon was massive. I mean, obviously it happened a long time ago, but it still has very real effects today and would make people in the U.S. very mad. Something really nasty was going on there. And I wonder if that was the second iteration of the Iran-Contra people, the enterprise, as they call.
Right. So the book is actually Apostles of Power. There's more here, but in the book Coup de 12, or the more rare copy of it called Apostles of Power, which essentially is the same book, the group of people who are manipulating everything, basically, from prior to 9/11 to right up to now with what we're dealing with Palantir and the Doge kind of stuff and whatever it is, they refer to themselves as the Enterprise. Continuing.
Called themselves. What have they been doing since? It seems like they were doing 08. They, in my opinion, had a hand in 9/11 in the US. What have they been doing since?
So, which makes me wonder, should we be trying to match one of the characters in that book up to Mark Middleton? Because Mark Middleton is the person that Jeffrey Epstein was visiting at the going to the visiting at the White House, or going to the White House with, and he died under unusual circumstances.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but that was a very specific reference. The Enterprise, 08 crash, and 9/11, which are the two topics covered that group was controlling in the book. And it's the first time I've heard her talk about it in that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
When I heard that part, I'm like, ooh, Emily's going to bring this to our show. Will you put it back? Will you bring the clip back up?
Yeah.
And will you go to 50-30?
Yeah. 50-30.
And yes, we cover her Velma-ness in Words 113, which comes out tomorrow.
Yes, Matt's funeral.
On their the Department of Treasury on cryptocurrency and anti-hacking efforts. All sorts of he was still doing a lot of stuff between those arrests. It's just, the public association was, no longer beneficial for a lot of powerful people.
But he was considered financially illiterate.
By who?
Well, I think Eric Weinstein came out and said he's a moron.
Yeah. That's interesting. Doesn't he work for Teal Capital? Well, Eric, I'm not super familiar with Eric Weinstein's Epstein story, but as I understand it, he talks a lot more about his impressions of Epstein at the meeting as opposed to why he was going there. And I believe he ran a hedge fund at the time. So why would you be going to Epstein as a hedge fund guy? I don't know.
Well, it seems like everybody met with Epstein at one time.
Yeah, for financial stuff. But I do not believe that he was financially illiterate. He was very successful. He would not have been tapped in the 80s by people like Adnan Khashoggi and Douglas Leese if he was not savvy. He helped orchestrate one of the largest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history at Towers Financial, but his name got dropped from the case like 3 months in. So, I mean, how do you do that by being financially illiterate?
Well,
Why would Leslie Wexner give you power of attorney over all of his affairs?
Well, that is also very weird, though.
But would he do that for someone who's financially illiterate? Because Epstein had several years between 1987 or 1985, depending on who you believe, when the introduction was made.
But why give it to him anyway?
Well, obviously, Wexner liked Epstein very much. I think there's no questions there. So
I have to say, in the few interviews I've seen her in since she's come back from having a baby, I like her more than I've ever liked her.
Same. Totally the same. That's it. That's enough. But I love that, and just the way she laughed and did it was so great.
It's exactly right, though. Like that anybody, I cannot believe how many people who seem to be of at least average intelligence, right, refer to Eric Weinstein as though he's the authority on anything, including the Epstein situation.
Especially when he spent the last 40 years in solitude working on his theory of everything to great, financial harm to his family.
That's right. He's suffering terribly. You can tell he hasn't had a meal in quite a while.
Correct.
Or a haircut, right? All right, what you got?
Okay, I have the Sabby Joe Rogan, which I believe someone just mentioned in the chat. And this is my last one, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Here we go. Fair use.
Bit much.
What's Whitney Webb's take on this?
I bet she's probably Whitney's research is so unbelievable.
Oh, but by the way, I should say,
yeah,
before I go any further than that,
yeah,
Whitney Webb has some strange conspiracy that she believes someone's trying to keep her from being on my show.
Yeah, that's not what you said.
So I don't know if Joe Rogan saw, I don't know. And I can't say it's because of that clip. But you guys know Whitney Webb is on here recently, and I did ask her about that. And I had a clip of the full interview, but then I had a separate clip of that so that people can get the response.
I love how he intentionally, because I can tell by the way he said it, he just like Matt avoided the point of the whole thing. She did not say she thinks someone is stopping her from getting on the show. Nope. She said that she thinks he doesn't have her on because her viewpoints are not as convenient, and he has relationships with people who those viewpoints are important to, or whatever it is. She never said there's a conspiracy against her getting on the Joe Rogan show.
Well, and also Joe, of all people, to use the word conspiracy as a pejorative, come on.
Yep.
All right, picking it up.
To that very quickly if they needed to, instead of going through the whole interview. Sometimes I do that. I break up the interviews into different clips. But I think it's interesting that Joe Rogan is bringing this up now, after that clip came out. I'll show you in just a second. So I don't know if he saw that or if someone told him about that. I don't know. Maybe he saw her say something on Twitter. I don't know, but I do find it interesting that he's bringing this up after that clip was published, where I did ask her about it. Notice that he's calling her a conspiracy person now. Joe Rogan has interviewed so many different people on his show. He's interviewed people that believe in UFOs. He's interviewed people that think the earth is flat, that type of stuff. But he's calling her a conspiracist or whatever. He said she has this conspiracy that I won't let her come onto my show. Let's look at all the things that line up, right? Other people that you've brought onto the show talk about her work, but she hasn't been reached out to. Ian Carroll, who came onto your show to talk about Whitney Webb's work, just blew up like yesterday. And it was just really weird. All of a sudden, this guy was everywhere. We talked about that before on the show. All of a sudden, Ian Carroll just kind of blew up out of nowhere, and he was on all these different shows. And next thing, people are like, "How's this guy getting on Joe Rogan's show?" And you have people who have been political commentators for like 10, 15 years, and they haven't even been invited onto Joe Rogan's podcast. So there was that type of thing. But listen to what Joe Rogan says. This is really interesting. Sorry.
Seems a bit much.
What's Whitney Webb's take on this?
I bet she's probably, Whitney's research is so unbelievable.
Oh, but by the way, I should say,
yeah,
before I go any further than
yeah,
that, Whitney Webb has some strange conspiracy that she believes someone's trying to keep her from being on my show.
Interesting.
Yeah, Whitney, I'll have you on the show. I just haven't reached out because I have thousands of people to go through. That's all.
I'm sorry, guys.
The person keeping her from coming on the show is you, Joe. You.
Correct. But
My
I noticed
favorite-
how his eyes were closed the whole
Yeah.
time he said that. Like, what was that?
Yeah, well, so he's forced into a position, right? Because there is someone else he does this with. How many times has Dave Smith name dropped Scott Horton on Joe Rogan podcast? Like literally every single time he's been on there, he spends at least 15 to 30 minutes talking about something from one of Scott Horton's books or podcasts or whatever. And Scott Horton is like he's been on Lex Fridman at this point, so we'll see if he gets on Joe Rogan. But he's not partisan. He goes into all the areas about war and all of that kind of stuff. And so he's another one that like the people who are too thoroughly researched, too well researched on topics that are minutia based, which this stuff is, but the minutia is where the facts are. Right. They don't generally get the invites unless his hand gets forced. So it'll be interesting to see if he has either or both of them on. Did you see in that same Joe Rogan podcast? I love Tim Dillon when he's like, didn't anybody say to Peter it should be one part on the Antichrist or no parts on the Antichrist, not 4 parts on the Antichrist? The way he said it was so funny.
Or when he said, he's like, why don't you like fill in your interests? Like, I'm into Satan and drones and tennis.
He's the one oligarch I have not seen in anyone's box at a tennis tournament. So,
Yeah.
there we
But
go.
again, like, I'm not buying that Tim Dillon is real either.
Oh no, but he's funnier. Like at least he's funny, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I'll give points for that, right? So, all right. Thank you to Dead Star Cave Girl for your generous super chat. We appreciate it. And now it's all capital letters time, guys. Questions, comments, all that jazz. You know what to do. I'm going to scan through and see what's here. Of course, now that it's time to go to the chat box, my computer is doing the thing it does whenever it's time to go to the chat box. Let's see.
Do you know what I blocked out, but I just remembered today?
Huh?
I used to wait on Joe Rogan.
Where?
I worked at Pinot Hollywood, which at the time was the only restaurant near Paramount that had a bar and good food. So the news radio cast would come over after they filmed.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, who would have thunk back then that Joe would be like master propagandist?
Totally, right? Like, I mean, nobody's like, I think I've told you this before, but like my friend RJ, who's like my techno friend, one of my, like oldest techno friends, right? Like back in like 2009 period of time, something like that, 8, he used to go around singing some little like, Joe Rogan, you like the taste of that penis, don't you, Joe Rogan, or something like that. And it was I guess it was a clip from like King of the Hill or South Park or one of those cartoon shows or whatever that was like making fun of Joe Rogan for the things he did on
Fear Factor?
Fear Factor, right? But RJ was one of these people like me that when he gets something in his head, he'll keep singing the same stupid thing over and over and over again. And part of me thinks that RJ sang this into existence. because he said Joe Rogan's name so many times, right? And RJ's born and raised here in Austin, lives in Austin. You know what I mean? Like that, right? He just I was in like this was during a period of time where both of us were twacked out on drugs, and so when people are on drugs, they do a lot of annoying things. But this was like annoying, like super annoying for even considering how many annoying things we were all doing. It was like shut up about Joe Rogan already. Like I only knew about him from Fear Factor. I think maybe he was starting to do like those. Remember he used to do the podcasts on that weird video service. It was called like I can't remember what it was called. It was like it was like one of the first streaming services that there was out there, and it was very not very
Napster.
no. It was streaming. It was like the thing that like Tim Pool used to stream from Occupy Wall Street on. It was like
MySpace?
no, it was like if you said the name of the service, I'd remember it.
Joni Mitchell?
But I remember watching some of those early ones, right? But this was before that, I think. I think he started. I think he started his thing in 2009 or 10 or something like that. And RJ just driving me nuts about Joe Rogan was before that. I blame it on RJ.
Tunnel Mental would like to know what your favorite color is, Emily.
Gray.
What?
It depends on what it's for. Like for clothing, like I like black and gray for like what I'm gonna wear per se. But like, what's my favorite color? Like when I close my eyes, like on mushrooms and see like all the pretty colors.
Yeah.
Like always that like that place where sort of like the most saturated, beautiful pink comes together with like the bluish purple area. I like that. There's like some blue green areas. The colors in the psychedelic space are so much, they have so much more emotion and information attached to them that the ones in the real life don't really like, it seems like a different thing. It seems like they're like not the same, right? So I don't know how.
Could you mix them if you had like a painter's palette?
No, because there's this like saturation level that is hard. I have like a few pieces from on like that I've seen on Instagram, either like videos or just art, and then like a few other things that capture that sort of thing that I'm talking about. But for me to just say like pink, magenta, purple, that's not the color. You know what I mean? Like it's these very specific saturation points in the spectrum that like when I was working with Mario on the graphics for my series, and he would, when we were starting to add color to them and he would do certain things with the color, like he'd like change it. He was watching me like have these visceral physical reactions to certain tones of colors, and he was like very amused by it, right? Like, yeah, I like color a lot. But the colors I like are hard to explain.
Thank you, Jerusha, for your generous super chat. Thank you so much. Jerusha says, y'all, back in the day, Tucker Carlson literally said that people who didn't believe the official story on 9/11 should be arrested. This is such BS. Gardner is right. Reality is just full of crap right now. Love y'all. Thank you.
Totally, right? Like that's what I'm like I think he's literally like sitting there being done to the same thing that he literally did to people, and it's like this is what are we even doing here, right?
Yeah.
I can almost remember seeing a clip of him making fun of Rosie O'Donnell and Joe Rogan. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that it might be my mind putting two different things together, but not far off, right?
It'd be a good use of ChatGPT to ask it to find any indication of Tucker admonishing people for questioning the official 9/11 story.
That would be awesome. Oh, Tom
Jim.
in the house. I just did like 2.5 hours
Tomfoolery.
on tennis with him yesterday. That I don't know that anyone else other than he and I will be as amused by it as we were. But yes, 2.5 hours on tennis. That like went from standard tennis talk to, you know, all sort of psychedelic tennis talk. Let's put it that way, or whatever.
Nice.
Jim,
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, thank you for
Nigel.
super chat. Nigel.
Thank you guys. Hayden asked, do y'all think the propagandists are ready to move on from Joe Rogan into different characters?
Yeah, I do. I think that like elephant graveyard video, like I do think that like there's a, just like there's been Funeral for Matt. I think that they'll still be around, but they're in their Vegas lounge act, just like years,
Yeah.
just like what Russell Dobular said. So I don't think they're gonna like go away, but I think it's just they're ready to move on to something else, and that's why this has all happened. Daphne, I have not been on Union of the Unwanted. Let's see. Danny's been on it. Have you been on it multiple times, Danny, or just that one time?
No, I don't think I'm going to be asked back. I didn't like
But
me.
you at least get asked to these places. I don't even get asked, so you at least get a chance to go on there and spoil it for yourself.
Yay me.
Right? Okay, let's see what else we got. My thing is scrolling so slowly that I can't. Oh, James in the house. Hi, James. My thing is scrolling so slowly that are there any
I don't see any other all caps.
Oh, let's see.
Thank you, High Heart Wellness. I appreciate that. That was I tend to not really enjoy doing podcasts with multiple people because the tension around getting a word in, like my tendency is to just pull back and let everyone else take over. And then I like perfectly honestly just like fall asleep or get lost in doodling.
Somebody, Daphne, I can't remember. It might have been Ustream, but I feel like it was definitely you something or other. The thing I was talking with Joe Rogan and Tim Pool. We talked about Charlie Kirk in the beginning.
Yeah, just rewind.
Yeah, just rewind when we're done. Hayden, do you all think the propaganda story? Okay, got that one already. Sorry, my thing is slow. So
all good. We haven't missed any, I don't think.
Nigel, I don't know who your handler is, but if you find out, let me know. I don't know who your handler is. Are you sure you have a handler? Let's see. The panel you were on with Union of Unwanted was very telling with examples of gatekeeping and apologists.
It was. I was so shocked. And I was shocked because afterwards I reached out to Charlie about it, that he didn't like, because I know that Charlie knows better than the bullshit that those guys were throwing out, who were like, I mean, Sam was like so dominating the conversation. It was like the Sam show. We were just his audience. But I found it very odd. Either like their ignorance about the space or their willingness to show for Joe. I don't know. It confused me. I was like, ew, that wasn't fun.
I mean, this gets into things like, this is one of the complications of the media, the sort of all media spaces, but in our specific, this happens in the party scene too, right? In the underground party scene, it's very much like the podcast scene. That, like, I'm sure that there's, Charlie's involved in some portions of the alternative media where he goes, like, either goes along with or doesn't say anything about some numbskulled idea that someone has because he's also in sort of some sort of union with them as far as like the crypto space or whatever it is, right? And so it's a huge issue when people feel like they can't say anything because somehow part of their relevance to an audience depends on not offending the biggest fish in the pond or the one who, provides financial support for things or whatever it is, right? It's a problem. And also, or it would also just be okay for people to say, you know what, I have a conflict of interest, so I'm not going to offer my opinion. Because just say that. Say, I have a conflict of interest, and the conflict of interest is that I love this person or that I have a business with this person, and I may or may not agree with them, but I'm choosing to sort of abstain from the conversation because it's conflicted anyway. Say that, right?
Right. It was like, yeah, I think that like my sense, and I don't know, is like this is why Charlie's successful, is because he's playing that role and allowing it to go the way that it goes. But I thought the other thing that was odd to me was that he wasn't facilitating a group conversation and like weaving everyone in, that he was allowing Sam to like totally dominate with his inane BS of like, I know him, he's a person. Or when I said, well, what about Alex Jones and Joe going to the bathroom? And he's like, it's just a bathroom, I've been there. And it's like, so what? Doesn't acknowledge the point.
I mean, this is
saying it's not a bathroom.
This is like part of the problem. Anytime you have a quote famous person enter a group of people who are
Sam famous?
Well, I wouldn't he's one of the alternative media people who's crossed over, right? Like who's has he's the kind of like crossover, right? I wouldn't say like my dad doesn't know who Sam Tripoli is, but lots of people get really excited when Sam Tripoli has them on their podcast because he's got a big podcast. Like he was the big kahuna at Rockfin, and that was a big thing in the alternative media for a while, but he obviously has had the ties to Joe Rogan and whatever it is. So of course, like people who it's a human nature to like not want to offend someone who's A, being nice to you, and B, has possibility to offer you opportunities in the future. And it's one of those things that in doing this work, we have to fight against that within ourselves and say what we mean.
But it doesn't mean that we're not nice to him. Like you and I disagree
No.
all the time,
Right.
and we're still nice and respectful. So it felt more like pandering. And just for the record,
Well, it is. That's what I'm saying. It is pandering because
but just for the record, I've been booked on Sam Tripoli's show 4 times, and every time he's no-showed. No advance warning, no apology after, just fucking no-show.
Yeah, I mean, I was on his like metaphysical wellness show one time, and he was very nice to me. I thought it was a good show. He said he'd have me back on his bigger show. I didn't think he really would, but I wasn't, and I wasn't offended by that. But I see how other people who come from the alternative media space that he dropped into, right? He kind of dropped into the alternative media space from the comedy space. I see how differently they behave in regards to him than they behave in regards to you or me or any one of a million other people that we do podcasts with.
Yeah.
Right? And that is pandering.
Yeah.
That's pandering.
Thank you for your generous super chat. She said, no show for Danny. He's scared.
Everyone's scared of Danny.
I don't know why I'm such a pussycat.
I've learned to overcome my fear and just enjoy whatever wild ride it is we go on. So, anywho, all right. Going once, twice, 3 times. Let's give everyone a minute to offer their last thoughts or questions or whatever.
Super chats.
Or super chats for sure.
I want to shout out to Bridget for showing up for me yesterday. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Where did she show up for you?
Well, she held space for me during my journey.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you, Bridget, for holding space for her during her journey.
Yeah.
that she's not going to talk about. So, Danny went on a magic carpet ride. All right. Tunnel Mental was on Ro Jogan's podcast. Got it. Okay. And all right. I think we're done.
We're done.
We're just giving lots of hearts and loves at this point, which means we've reached the end. Yay!
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jerusha.
All right, guys. New show's up tomorrow morning. Take a look for it there. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Do you have any titles? We didn't do that one. We did that one time in this episode about title.
We didn't, but I know we were talking about how everything's gotten weirder and they've like turned up the dial on the weird, something like faker and gayer.
Synthetic spike.
Ooh, I like synthetic spike.
All right, let's do that because we talked about the weird COVID thing anyway.